WWF's Attitude Era is, in my opinion, the greatest period in professional wrestling history. And I will be doing a series of videos revisiting that time period and explaining why it was so amazing. Now, a lot of people debate when the Attitude Era first started. Some people say it was with the Goldust character because that's when things started getting a little bit more edgy. Some people say it was when Stone Cold Steve Austin gave the Austin 316 promo at King of the Ring 1996. Some people say it was when The Rock joined the Nation of Domination. Some people say it was the formation of D-Generation X. In my opinion, all of these elements were sparks. But the fire really started with the Montreal Screwjob, which occurred at Survivor Series 1997, where Bret Hart was defending the WWF Championship against Shawn Michaels. And, well, Bret was leaving the company to join WCW, but he didn't want to lose the championship to Shawn Michaels on that night. Now, Vince McMahon, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, they had some other ideas. They wanted to make sure Bret Hart did not leave Montreal, which is where the Survivor Series was taking place that night, with the championship. They couldn't have him be champion because he was no longer under contract with the WWF after that night. So they concocted a plan to have Bret Hart lose the match, even though he didn't actually lose. Earl Hebner called for the bell when Shawn Michaels had Bret Hart locked in a sharpshooter. Bret Hart didn't tap out, but for all intents and purposes, he loses the match. The championship is awarded to Shawn Michaels, and professional wrestling changes forever. In this video, I will discuss the November 10th, 1997 episode of Monday Night Raw, which was the first Raw after the Montreal Screwjob. This episode of Raw took place in Ottawa, Canada. Now remember, Canadians love Bret Hart, and they all know that Bret got screwed, and so that makes Shawn Michaels public enemy number one over here. So Shawn Michaels and DX come out, and they insult Bret Hart. He even says that Bret Hart screamed out that he gave up. So further tarnishing Bret Hart's reputation, even though Bret Hart isn't even in the company anymore. Then Sergeant Slaughter comes out and lets them know that Triple H is going to be facing Ken Shamrock later in the night. And that's important because this is the extension of a storyline which is going to culminate at an event in December of 1997, which was In Your House D-Generation X. Shawn Michaels will be defending the WWF Championship against Ken Shamrock. Now, the previous week, Triple H pedigreed Ken Shamrock. So now they're going to be facing each other in the main event. So you see, this is already an indicator of why the Attitude Era was fun and interesting and held your attention, because you want to see Triple H get beat up by Ken Shamrock. And Sergeant Slaughter says that DX is banned from ringside. So now there's a real chance that Triple H is going to get his comeuppance. You know, it's little things like that. These days, if you watch an episode of Raw, does the main event even matter? I mean, a lot of times this year, Seth Rollins was defending his World Heavyweight Championship against random contenders that you knew weren't going to win. So what is the point of the match? I mean, it's like there's no stakes, really, because you know he's not going to lose that championship. You know he's not. He's not going to lose it to Jey Uso. He's not going to lose it to Sami Zayn on Monday Night Raw when the match wasn't even built up at all. You know he's not going to lose. See, I don't like when TV shows have main events that mean nothing and they don't even really further a storyline. They're just there. And WWE does that a lot. You know, back then, it's part of a long-term plan with the stories that they're trying to tell. You see, the thing about today's wrestling world is that the WWE is doing well. But why are they doing well? Is it because their matches are great? No, it isn't. It's because people have finally bought into the characters and the storylines that the WWE is putting out. Not all the characters, but some of the top ones, specifically Roman Reigns and the Bloodline. And when did that start getting really popular? It started getting popular right around the time of WrestleMania 38. Sami Zayn started his storyline with the Bloodline right after WrestleMania 38. And as that story heated up, That's when people started tuning in. That's when live attendance started going up. In addition to that, at the same time, Cody Rhodes re-debuted in the WWE with his American Nightmare character at WrestleMania 38. So a lot of people thought that was cool, and he was doing stuff on Raw while Sami Zayn and Roman Reigns were doing stuff on SmackDown. And these two stories and these two characters, Sami Zayn and Cody Rhodes, they were doing their things at the same time. So during that year, which was 2022, everything started picking up, and towards the end and heading into 2023, they were on fire. And they continue to be on fire because of the characters and the stories. The matches, yes, they play a role in all of this, but that is not why people are coming to the arena. And you want proof of that? Check out AEW. You know, AEW, they pride themselves on having great matches. Well, it depends what you think a great match is, but that's what their thing is, right? They're the ones who get the 5-star matches, the 4 3/4 star matches from the Wrestling Observer. But if you look at their live attendance, it's not good. How about their TV ratings? Their ratings are the lowest they've been in years, even though they just signed Mercedes Moné and Okada and Will Ospreay, and maybe down the line they'll figure this stuff out. But you see, you gotta have stories that people care about. People cared about the Sami Zayn bloodline story. People care about Cody Rhodes' pursuit of the WWE Championship, which is the championship his father never won. You know, this has been going on for 2 years, this story with Cody Rhodes chasing the WWE Championship. The bloodline story has been going on for like 3.5 years. And there have been highs and lows. One of the highs was the Sami Zayn angle. Sami Zayn gets his match in Montreal, and then the bloodline story cools down until The Rock comes back. So now The Rock has breathed new life into the bloodline story. And Cody Rhodes' story is now a branch off of the bloodline story. That's how things work. And the WWE understands that now, and they understood it back in 1997. I want to emphasize there were no great matches on this episode of Raw. I mean, maybe the best one was Taka Michinoku versus Devon Storm as part of the light heavyweight championship tournament. That was about it. I mean, that was the only match that kind of had some stuff going on in it. The other matches were either no contests, disqualifications, random stuff happening. Like they had the Truth Commission versus the Headbangers. Now, this was basically a slugfest, and they were just a bunch of basic moves. But you know what? I would rather watch that than watch, let's say, a Bianca Belair match from today. If you watch Bianca Belair's match, there's a lot of telegraphing of moves and stuff. Like, she'll have her hands waiting for her opponent to run into her hands to do like some kind of tilt-a-whirl, whatever. It's like when you're seeing that much cooperation, that's not what people want to see. At least that's not what I want to see. Or fans from the old school, they want to see a match that seems like a fight, not a Cirque du Soleil or gymnastics performance type of thing. They don't want to see that, because the whole idea is that you want to make it look as realistic as you can. And some people might say, oh, well, that's just a preference, because you could prefer to watch people choreographing all of their moves, calling out spots and telegraphing everything. Yeah, but that defeats the whole purpose. Like, why? What are we watching now? This is ridiculous. Like, even at WrestleMania 40 last night, I just remember seeing Bianca Belair holding her hands out, and then one of the members of Damage Control runs right into her hands to get slammed or whatever. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. You know, I'd rather watch what I saw here on a Monday Night Raw episode with the Truth Commission and the Headbangers just slugging each other. It makes more sense. There was a segment between Steve Austin and The Rock, and Steve Austin had just won the Intercontinental Championship the previous night at the Survivor Series. So The Rock comes out. Now, this is at a time when The Rock is in the Nation of Domination. He comes out and challenges Steve Austin to a match for the Intercontinental Championship. And they have a little bit of fun back and forth. And it's a very short segment, but it shows you the greatness of The Rock and Steve Austin, even at this time in their careers. It's foreshadowing great things to come. One of the hallmarks of the Attitude Era was a very fast-paced show, so that when the conclusion of the show comes, you're like, wow, it's already over? See, that's so different than today's WWE programming. Today's programming is very plodding and very slow, and the promos sometimes take forever, and the matches sometimes are 2 segments, 3 segments, and it's like everything is so long and it's a chore to get through. Back then, everything was like, whoa, it's like 2 minutes here, and then now 2 minutes we're going to spend on something else. Okay, now this other thing is happening. I'll give you an example. So I just mentioned they had that Rock Austin segment, right? Well, some of the other stuff they had was Steve Austin beating up the Los Boricuas, and then there was a bunkhouse brawl match between the New Age Outlaws and one member of the Blackjacks, Bradshaw, where Bradshaw beat the heck out of both of them for a couple minutes, and then all of a sudden one of them hits a tornado DDT on Bradshaw onto a steel chair, and then they pick up the win where Billy Gunn and Road Dogg are covering Bradshaw, and that's how they win the match. Then Mark Miro comes out at some point. He had a match earlier in the night, which he lost by disqualification to Ahmed Johnson for low blowing him. He comes out while Butterbean, who is a celebrity at the time, Butterbean is a boxer, sort of, I guess. He is a boxer, and he made a reputation for himself by beating up like truck drivers and mechanics and things like that. So Mark Miro, who is also a boxer, comes out and starts threatening him and telling him not to look at his manager Sable, and so that's starting an angle between Mark Miro and Butterbean. See, just lots of stuff happening. Then there was a Jeff Jarrett interview, which wasn't very interesting, but again, a change of pace. See, they keep it going. They just keep you on your toes. You don't know what's going to happen next, unpredictable stuff. That's how you do it. You have stuff going on backstage, like one of the Blackjacks got attacked. That's why Bradshaw came out by himself to face the New Age Outlaws 2-on-1. You just got a lot of cuts back and forth to different things and different stuff going on. Like, that's how you do it. It's kind of a precursor to today's society where we have all these quick, like, TikTok videos and stuff like that. That's why TikTok works, because it's short videos constantly flashing by your face, and you're swiping and you just get hooked into it, and all of a sudden an hour goes by or 2 hours goes by and you don't even know what happened. And that's like what Raw used to be back then. The Attitude Era was like that. But it was good. It was done in a good way because it makes you stick around, and then you want to come back next week to see what the heck is going to go on this week. Today's programming is just way too slow-paced. Way too slow-paced. And yes, I know they're making a lot of money and things are going well, but there was a reason why the Attitude Era was exciting. I would not call today's WWE programming exciting at all. There are moments that are exciting, like if you have CM Punk on the program and he's cutting a promo, or you have The Rock on, or, occasionally you have a main event match that means something, but, it's few and far between. But luckily, the standards are so low these days, people are tuning in. The Undertaker and Kama Mustafa from the Nation of Domination, later he was known as the Godfather, they had a match that ended in a no contest when Paul Bearer and Kane, Undertaker's brother, come out, and Paul Bearer is challenging the Undertaker to a match. Undertaker refuses to fight Kane because Kane is his little brother, and this is the extension of a story that goes on for a while, because remember, Kane debuted in the WWE about a month earlier maybe, and the thing that keeps extending the story is that Undertaker does not want to fight his brother. And again, this is just one of the million things that are going on this show. Now, the main event of the evening finally comes, and it's Triple H versus Ken Shamrock. DX is not allowed at ringside. Of course, DX shows up anyway, but Sergeant Slaughter stops them from interfering. First, he stops Rick Rude, then he stops Chyna. Shawn Michaels somehow sneaks past and grabs Rick Rude's briefcase and hits Ken Shamrock in the back with it, as Ken Shamrock had the ankle lock on Triple H. So this furthers the story between Shawn Michaels and Ken Shamrock. Now, was this a great episode of Raw? Not really. But would I rather watch this episode of Raw versus today's episodes of Raw? Absolutely. Absolutely, because they had uniquely defined characters, and this was just the beginning. You know, it's not like everything was amazing at this point yet in the Attitude Era. Things were just getting started. But again, like I said, they had uniquely defined characters, which eventually leads to a period of time in the WWE where pretty much every single character on the show was interesting. I mean, you can't have that in today's WWE. I mean, think about how many cookie cutter wrestlers there are in NXT, which are just like interchangeable. I mean, they all have similar ring gear, everything's the same, and it's like, why am I supposed to care about any of these people? Same with the main roster. I mean, how many interesting characters are there on the main roster? Not that many. Not that many. Luckily, they have enough where people are paying attention, but not a ton. If you think about the Attitude Era, we're not at this point yet on this episode. But you get to a point where even the people at the bottom, like in the hardcore division, Crash Holly, Al Snow, Big Boss Man, people love those guys. And then people love the tag teams. And then people love the people in the Intercontinental title division and the main event division. So that's why people are glued in, because they love everybody on the show. They care about what they're doing. The stories and the characters matter. On this show, again, you have characters like Kane and Undertaker and the Headbangers and the Truth Commission. You have people from the Nation and Domination like The Rock and Kama Mustafa. You have Stone Cold Steve Austin. You got Shawn Michaels, Triple H in China from DX, and Rick Rude. You got so much stuff going on. You got Ken Shamrock, who's like a former UFC guy. And it's just, the characters are so much more interesting than today's characters. I mean, how can you really define today's characters? They don't really have much of a thing going for them. I mean, they're just guys and girls. There's nothing really special going on with most of them. But the most important thing is they're getting me to tune in, because I want to see what happens next week. Is Ken Shamrock going to finally get his revenge on DX with Triple H, Shawn Michaels, China, Rick Rude, always attacking him? Is he going to find some help, some backup? I don't know. What's going to go on between Rock and Steve Austin? Are Paul Bearer and Kane going to come after The Undertaker again? Maybe attack him this time? Who knows? See, this is what I'm talking about. Like, there are questions that are left in the viewer's mind that they want answered maybe next week or the week after. You watch today's WWE programming, and it's like, I don't really care what's happening next week for the most part. There are times when you do care, like with the Sami Zayn and the Bloodline storyline. But for the most part, does it really matter? Or if The Rock is advertised on an episode, you want to see what he's going to do. But that's not enough to sustain attention. That's why these days I don't watch the full shows. I watch clips that are online, like little 2-minute clips, but you think I'm going to sit through 3 hours of a bunch of nothingness? No way. Although some people do. Because again, the standards for entertainment are so low. So if WWE is doing anything good, people are going to watch, because most of entertainment is garbage.